It's 4 p.m. We're bringing you developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez.
I'm Ed Lingao. Some stories for watching this Monday, July 1. Former President Duterte says he knows where fugitive Apollo Quiboloy is. Are we supposed to use that word? But he refuses to disclose the religious leader's exact location. Meanwhile, Duterte denies that he is running for senator in the 2025 elections, contrary to the claim of his daughter, VP Sara Duterte. The National Capital Region's Wage Board has approved a 35 peso pay hike for workers. Wages for non-agricultural industries will soon be 645 pesos from 610 pesos. Workers in agriculture, service, retail, and manufacturing will get 608 pesos per day. The wage hike for NCR will take effect 15 days after the order's publication in major newspapers.
I wonder what they mean by agricultural workers in Metro Manila,
Right.
but there must be something. Anyway, Malaysia opposes the Philippines' claim to an extended undersea continental shelf off west of Palawan. Kuala Lumpur says Manila's claim is projected from the baselines of Sabah, which is regarded as a Malaysian state. Joining us today, Ana Marie Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, and Ronald Llamas
Ano pa siya?
is not joining us today. He's still in the U.S.
Don't say that. Baka magpulasan yung mga nanonood.
Oo nga pala, no?
Baka humabol.
Baka humabol. But let's jump in, Ami.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Let's jump in, Ami, straight to what's on the front pages of the Philippine Star for tomorrow.
May dagdag lang ako dun sa sinabi niya about former President Duterte. Pinapayuhan niya yung anak niya, si VP Sara, ay wag na daw tumakbong presidente at ibigay na lang sa mga ambisyoso dyan.
Okay.
Saka may follow-up din ako. Well, we're waiting for what's happening in Malacanang. Makikipag-meeting yata or makikipag-meeting yung Malaysian Foreign Minister. And we are waiting for word on yun na nga yung complaint nila about our claim sa extended continental shelf natin.
Interesting, no? That Malaysia's...
Computed daw from Sabah.
Oo, yun ang interesting.
Yun.
Parang may nabuhay na ibang alitan, no? Ibang dispute, no? Over Sabah naman.
We never gave up the claim to Sabah.
Not officially,
Yeah.
not formally. Okay,
Even if it's getting more and more
distant. Oo. But no administration, no president wants to go down in history as the one who gave up Sabah, di ba? At least not on the record. Yun ang mahirap dyan.
Pero in the end, kasi in the future, how are we going to resolve the issue? Kasi in the end, the United Nations and the world recognizes self-governance, self-determination.
The plebiscite, I think, plebiscite that they held there, right?
Self-determination, whether it's the past plebiscite or even if they hold the future plebiscite, they hold the future plebiscite. I think we know what they're going to vote.
Yeah, pero...
Di ba nag-referendum na, di ba?
1963.
They voted to be
Right.
with Malaysia.
Right.
Yeah.
Na kino-contest natin ng Pilipinas, at least back then. And then, this is something I think that Filipino administrations would rather sweep under the rug.
Yeah.
Although si former Foreign Secretary Teddy Locsin biglang binuhay during his time. Binuhay yung Sabah desk ng Department of Foreign Affairs. Talagang naghanap ng away, no? Binuhay yung Sabah desk. Every now and then,
Pero nag-o-offer nga daw, di ba? Nag-o-offer ng rent yung Sabah. Nag-o-offer ng rent sa atin or sa Sultanate.
May ganun, ha?
But yeah, they use a different term. They don't call it rent. They call it session payment. In the original, it's called pajak. Pajak. Now, how you translate pajak, it depends on who you ask. Kasi the British, translate it as rent.
Okay.
But the Malaysians and they call it lease.
Lease. Right.
It's a lease.
Either way, it's ours.
Kaya nga.
I mean, if you go by that argument,
Kaya
lease or rent.
Yeah.
Rent to own.
Bakit ka mag-lease?
Ay, teka,
Rent to own. Baka
Hindi,
sabihin na rent to own.
Sorry. I'm not sure if the translation is lease. Kasi if you go to, for example, you go to Holo,
Right.
yung pawn shops are called pajak.
Okay. And
So it's not lease.
it is what? Hacking. Parang.
Sinasangla.
Sinasangla.
Siguro kasi puro
Ano?
padyak yan,
Sinasangla.
padyak, pero hindi siya yung padyak na ganun. Pawn shops.
Pero ganun pa rin, Bok. No? Atin pa rin yun. Pag, di ba, pag
Yeah.
may pinasangla ka, sa'yo pa rin yun. Babawiin mo lang kailangan.
Kung mababawi mo.
Yeah. Babayaran para mabawi. Di ba? Babayaran para mabawi.
Right, oo.
So binigay sa'yo, kahit temporary in their mind, temporary yung ownership. Sa atin pa rin yung ano. Kasi
Tama,
pag hindi mo
tama yun.
nabayaran, sa'yo na yon, di ba?
So, yun. And that was also controversial kasi for the longest time, since what, 18 something, the Sultanate was receiving the session money.
Right.
So is it their property
Yes.
or Philippine property?
Is it an acknowledgement of ownership by the Sultan, by the Sultanate? Parang ganun, the payments being made. Anyway,
But even that would also unearth other complications. So,
Right.
so is it privately owned or is it publicly owned? Kasi if so, why does the money go to the Sultanate?
in the end, sabi nila, occupation is ownership. So, as long as
Nine-tenths
Malaysia
of the law.
has effective control,
Saka-
we can argue to death
Kahit
about
yung
what
salita
pajak
doon
means.
ang salita doon is not, hindi yung salita natin sa although nagkakaintindihan sila ng mga tao, na yung ibang
Ito
tao
usog din.
natin sa Mindanao, pero salita nila is
Bahasa Malay.
Malaysian na.
Ganun ba?
Yeah,
Bok?
it's
Bahasa
Malaysian.
Malay.
Pero
Yeah,
maraming
it's Malay,
Pilipino,
bahasa.
Ha?
We've
Ay,
been
ano?
there.
Yeah.
Maraming
Oo.
Pilipino, maraming Pilipino.
Malaysian.
Pag Tagalog, Pilipino.
Maraming Pilipino,
Oo.
Ami. Yun.
Pero marami tayong magkakalapit na na bahasa
Sa
ang
bandang
basis
sandakan.
na.
Kasi tawiran lang yan eh.
The biggest argument really is like, ba't mo guguloyin yung Sabah? Ayos-ayos ng buhay nila doon.
Di ba? Tanda mo nung nandun tayo.
Nakakaya. Nandun kami,
We were
Ami.
there in 2000, year 2000, long time ago, 24 years ago. Quarter century
Matahimik,
ago.
maayos.
Ang sabi nila, di ba? Ang sabi nila, maayos na kami rito eh. Mga Pilipino to. Maayos na kami rito eh. Ba't pa nila kukunin?
Nakakaya lang.
Parang, ang sakit, di ba?
Kaya nga. May isa
How
pang
do you argue
binabantayan
against that?
yung si President Marcos, sabi niya, may binabantayan ako, tawag ko lang doon, UFA, Unidentified Flying Aircraft. Meron daw mga 400 na unknown trucks, di ba? Na pumasok sa ating, yung air defense identification zone natin. Yon yung sa Air Force naman kanina, yung Air Force event kanina.
Oh,
Kaya
wow,
yun yung mga
really?
minomonitor nating stories.
Pang front page ba yan, Ami? Itong story na yan? Front page?
Yung picture, pang front page yan.
Na-identify
Saka
ba
tinitingnan namin yung mga
galing?
picture.
Well, unidentified, So, hindi alam kung sino.
Sabi ko,
Walang indication.
unknown truck. Ang ginamit nila, quote-unquote, unknown truck. Ako lang nagtatawag na UFA.
Ayun.
Unidentified Flying Aircraft.
Ayun.
Hindi sila nagpapakilala. Pumasok sa natin, airspace natin. Yung identification zone natin. So, hindi natin alam yan kung ano. Anyway, nangako si President Marcos na committed pa siya sa improvement, sa modernization, of course, ng Philippine Air Force. Pero medyo mahal yan eh. Tingnan natin kung ano kaya natin. Kasi dun sa patrol boats pa lang natin medyo kapos na yung ating kapos na yung budget natin eh.
I think what people
Although-
need to understand, Ami, whenever matuwa tayo when there's modernization going on in the armed forces, we're buying more boats, we're upgrading our capability in the Air Force and satellite system, not and all that. Pero that takes away
Yeah.
from other things. Like, it's a limited pot.
Whether it's education
It takes away
or
from
health.
education, from social services,
Health.
etc., health and infrastructure. So, so we don't really want to. The arms race is not really something that is good generally, for the country and all that, especially nung medyo wala tayong pera. But anyway, over the weekend, I understand there was another Maisog rally. At first, kala ko yung Maisog place yun. Yung pala, yun ang tawag nila sa mga rally nila.
Ano, may isog?
Oh, and Maisog means courage, I think in Visayan. Oh, bravery and courage. May mga ilang sound bites tayo, I think coming from former President Duterte on a variety of issues.
Yep.
Maybe we can listen to them, Ami. And
Wala man tayong away sa relax na lang akong wala man tayong away sa China noon. We were free to fish in and out of that area. Nobody was bugging us. And there was no issue of territory. What started the rock was that, or that is a part of the geopolitics of America. And the Philippines ginamit. So, nagpagamit. Depende sa kung sinong nag-opo. During my time, I do not even remember a day of the 6 years that I was president na may kausap akong Amerikano sa Malacanang. Hindi ako anti-American, but yung ano kasi noon, yung neutrality, sinadya ko na lang na ayaw kong magkipag-usap sa, at hindi lang sa Amerikano, pati na sa Chinese and everybody. I don't think that it would go out of control. We have not reached that level of animosity or severity in the hostility with China that would warrant trouble for the country and for China also. It's I might just say siguro still within diplomatic ambit. Madala pa sa policy yan.
Okay, those are videos from SMNI, right, Bok?
Meron pa siyang ibang soundbites kaso hindi natin well, baka di pa nahanap. For example, yung sa kay Pastor Quiboloy, ang sabi, we said it in the headlines. I'm reading now from the Philippine Star, from
Yes.
the Star. Sabi ng dating Pangulo, if the question is, where is Pastor? I know where, but it's a secret. He told reporters yesterday in Tacloban City, he does not want to surrender, so don't surrender. So, yun.
Di ba harboring a fugitive yun?
Ayaw ko sa tatango dyan. Hindi ako bugado eh.
Di ba?
Baka matanong sa ulit kung learned siya eh.
Umamin eh. Wanted dyan, umamin siya na alam niya, ayaw mo ituro. O hindi ba harboring yan?
Basas ka no.
Hindi ba? Pwede kang kasuhan doon ah. Oh, you are openly admitting na you know where and you are not pointing to authorities. He's a wanted person. Meron siyang arrest warrant. He has at least 2 arrest warrants. He's wanted by the FBI. Although wala pang jurisdiction dito, wala namang request sa atin yung FBI. Pero tayo, we have 2 courts, at least 2 courts na alam ko in Mindanao and in Pasig. Wanted siya for non-bailable offense. O, hindi ba harboring yun? Abogado yan eh. Siyempre, alam niya yun.
Talagang di makareact si Ed.
It's a matter of perspective.
Well, we will have as many interpretations of the law as lawyers. So, you know, I think that's suffice it to say na kanya-kanyang interpretasyon niya amin pag-abogado eh. Alam naman natin. Pero ako, from a public pronouncement point of view, it doesn't probably sit well that you say it flouts the law.
Yeah.
At the very least, it flouts the law.
As a former
When you say
president,
na alam mo, pero
Yeah.
wala, hindi mo sabing secret, parang gano'n.
Oh.
Parang as a former
Hindi pwede,
president
wanted
especially.
yun eh.
it's different if you're a private person. It's different if you're a former president.
Right.
Iba yung context yun eh.
Snap! Hindi, naghihintay kami ngayon ng reaction ng mga naghahanap sa kanya.
Naghahanap na reaction
Kung
yun
ano
eh.
sasabihin.
Ami, you know, sabi ng Pangulo within the week, magkakaroon na ng pangalan yung Education DepEd Secretary. Pero Lunes na, medyo natatagalan. Sino bang matunong
Inurong,
from
diba?
your end?
Kasi ang effectivity ng resignation is 19 pa eh. Siguro out of courtesy, wala mo ng announcement. Siguro baka magkaroon ng announcement mga 2 or 1 day before mag-take effect yung resignation. Pero I'm sure sa ngayon pa lang nag-firm up na yan kung sino yung pipiliin Anyway, nagsalita ngayon si Senator Sani Angara na he is open daw to be the Education Secretary, although wala pa naman daw offer.
Okay, so walang offer pero
Hindi
open
pa daw
siya.
ino-offer sa kanya.
Sino pang mga pangalan ang lumulutang, Ami?
Si Senator Gatchalian, although si Senator Angara nga kasi patapos na yung term. Tapos si Wilmida Guevara, she had sinerhiya. Pero ang sabi naman ng ibang mga sa educators, ang problema daw natin is basic education. Dapat daw ang kuning expert is yun na nga, yung nakakaalam ng basic education rather than sa higher education. Although may problema din tayo siyempre sa higher education. Pero mas malala talaga yung sa basic
Doon mo na
Yung PISA ang covered noon, yung 15-year-olds natin I think that's junior high
Yeah.
Kaya yun ang talagang kailangan tutukan, hindi ba?
May learning poverty book, di ba? That's basic education,
Yes.
the learning poverty. The 99% learning poverty, basically learning poverty means, may read and write pero hindi naiintindihan yung binabasa at sinasabi. Parang ganun.
Comprehension issue.
Comprehension issue sa mga bata yan. Nakakatuwa lang na when they say who's the likely or who's the next possible DepEd secretary, the first name that comes to mind is Senator Sani Angara. But if you think about it, the only reason nagiging logical candidate yan is because for 2 reasons. Number 1, sinasabi tatay niya, dating UP president, tsaka patapos na yung term. Pero outside of that, I wonder whether
If he has the background.
Yeah, for education.
Yeah. Lawyer
Like, for example,
siya. He's a lawyer.
Si Gatchalian.
Nung panahon ni Angara, inabutan ko yan sa UP. Pagpasok nung batay niya sa UP, tandang-tanda ko kasi for the first time, nagkaroon ng tubig sa AS, College of Arts and Sciences. Yun ang natatandaan ko.
Naayos niya yung tubig.
Nagkaroon ng tubig sa doon sa mga toilet.
But di ba?
Running
Quarter storm.
water.
Angara did not go into the UP presidency as an educator. He came in as a lawyer.
Yes.
That was really his
Yes.
background as a lawyer. Yeah.
Oo nga. Pero UP yan
Oo. Yeah, he was famous for that. No? So ano ba kailangan? Nabanggit ni Ronald Llamas dito last week, I think, and I tend to agree na ang kailangan ng departamento is a technocrat, a good manager, who will not just say an educator, but more or less to tame the bureaucracy and manage it and maybe reform it. Kasi it's a huge bureaucracy.
It is the biggest bureaucracy.
It's the biggest bureaucracy.
Sa public school teachers pa lang, mga 1 milyon na halos yun.
Right, oo.
And then you have the biggest budget.
Well, may isa pa, di ba? May isa pa tayong yung matunog na pangalan nga, si Senator Gatchalian nga. Because he heads the Education Committee at marami siyang mga suggestions how to improve the education sector. Yan.
Speaking of Senator Gatchalian, I think we have him as our resource today.
Yes.
We are going to discuss not necessarily education, but we can ask him if he will take the job. No? But right now, the reason we have him on board as a resource is POGO. Good afternoon, Senator Gatchalian.
Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Hi, sir. Sir, do we start off with POGO, sir?
We'll get that question out of the way. Sir, DepEd.
Sige.
We just want to get that thing out of the way. DepEd.
Na-offer na ba?
Yan. DepEd Secretary, Senator, is that something that
It's
will
on the table
interest
already.
you? Is that something that's being floated to you?
I was asked about it by several groups and also from members of media. And my answer is I have still 4 years for my mandate. And I was voted by 20 million Filipinos in 2022 to serve a 6-year mandate. So I still have 4 years to go under my mandate, and I plan to finish all of those years because that's the mandate given to me by our Filipino voters. So, but then again, I am more than willing, more than able to help out and assist the new DepEd secretary, whoever that may be. As you mentioned earlier, I was the chairman of the Basic Education Committee, 4 years in the running right now, and We have analyzed so many things and looked at so many problems, and we also have some proposals to improve our education system.
Sir, so if at all that it is offered to you, you are not partial to accepting the position because you still have 4 years to go.
Correct. I am. I want to finish my mandate because it's a mandate given to me by 20 million of our countrymen, and that's what's expected of me. So I want to finish the those 4 years remaining under my mandate.
Okay, that's pretty clear.
Habol lang ako ng isang education question ha. Ihabol ko lang yung result ng assessment on creative thinking.
Creative thinking.
Do you have any specific measures, Senator, para ma-improve yung creativity, to encourage creativity at a young age sa mga Pilipino?
That's a very good question. In fact, before I went into this interview, I was looking at the World Economic Forum jobs future measure or jobs future. And I saw the number one job or the number one skill in the next decades to come is creative thinking, not critical thinking, creative thinking. Because the whole world is becoming very competitive when it comes to creativity. And we're not only competing among ourselves now as human beings, we're also competing with artificial intelligence. More and more, this technology is growing at a really fast pace. And I can see that in the future, we're not going to compete among ourselves as human beings anymore, but we'll be competing against machines. More so, human beings need to be educated and trained in creative thinking. Now, that's a really long-term reform that we have to undertake in our country. Starting with curriculum. Our curriculum is not designed to promote creative thinking. In fact, I was looking at the senior high school curriculum. Only 2 out of 30 plus subjects are geared towards information technology and creative thinking. So it's a curriculum adjustment that we need to make so that our students will be able to adapt in the jobs of the future.
Sir, that's 2 out of how many? Parang ang
30.
2 out of 32.
Sinulat ko dito. So we were actually meeting about this before we came. I think it's 2 out of 31.
Oh my.
31.
That means we need to tweak our curriculum in order to respond to the jobs of the future. But interestingly, if you look at also the jobs required in our country, they're all very labor-intensive jobs. For example, construction workers, manufacturing. So there's also a disconnect between what the world needs and what our country needs.
Right.
This is because our economy is growing not in line with the knowledge-based economy, but more the labor-intensive economy. For example, BPOs, construction. So that's a policy shift or a macro policy shift that we have to make as a country, not education-related na yan, but more on a policy level.
But with 2 out of 31, that's not even just tweaking. That's like a major that's a revamp.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The reason for that is because of the jobs required here in our country. If you look at also the senior high school textbook courses, they're very basic. No? For example, skills in, let's say, automotive repairs, skills in food technology, very basic. And the reason for that is because our country also requires basic skills. As a country, we're not moving into that AI world as fast as other countries are. But the world is going to that direction. But the pace that we are going into that is not as fast. No? So it's also a balancing act, supplying what our labor market needs now as a country and where the world is going. So we need to, curriculum is dynamic. You cannot have a static curriculum. Because the world is changing, your curriculum should also adapt to the world.
Sir, bagay na bagay kayo sa DepEd. The way you see the problem.
Because daming magagaling dyan. It's daming magagaling. We have a lot of really outstanding public servants who can fill the shoes. Admittedly, 4 years is not enough. Whoever will
Right.
fill that position should hit the ground running. Dapat wala nang experimenting, wala nang learning curve. Should hit the ground running. And I heard you earlier. It's a big bureaucracy. Half of the government bureaucracy is in DepEd. No, so someone who also has that muscle and grit to manage such a big organization.
Yeah, because former VP Sara aside, I think we've had educators on charge on top of DepEd all these decades, no? Starting from Lourdes Quisumbing, there was Mona Balisno, there was Armin Luistro, even Liling Briones would qualify as an educator. Her background in UP does make her an educator also. So, do we need an educator? Because people are saying we need an educator there. Is that what we need, or we need a technocrat who can figure out that mismatch that you're saying, what our economy needs and what our where we should invest in terms of human capital at the education level?
Well, from my personal take on this, you need certain qualities to manage this big of a bureaucracy. And 3 qualities that come to my mind. Number 1 is you need to know the problems, and you also need to know the solutions right away. There's no more experimenting. There's no more time to do the consultation, because that takes time. You should have been doing the consultation a long time ago, so that when you go in, you just implement the solutions. And then number 2, you need experience in managing a huge bureaucracy, or at least know the dynamics, how to manage such a big government agency. Aside from its size, its sheer size, it also gets the biggest budget in our national appropriations. It's about 800 billion pesos a year. So spending 800 billion is no easy task as well. That's why DepEd perennially, except for under the Briones leadership, that they've solved the perennial underspending problems of DepEd. And then third, you also need to have passion in education. A lot of the solutions will be outside the box, not the usual business as usual. So you need to have that passion. You need to have that advocacy, so that you can find out of the box solutions and implement them right away.
Okay.
Okay, ano, Pogo
It's,
naman
it's
tayo.
time to go to Pogo.
Pwede na. Pogo na. Oh, sige, pogo na.
Well-
Ano lang yan, it landed on my lap because of the resolution filed by some senators, but it's really education that we're really focused on.
Okay, Senator, over the weekend, was it POGCOR issued a statement saying that a former cabinet official has been serving as a protector of sorts for the POGO in Pampanga.
Or lobbyist, if you want to call it that.
I don't know how ready you are to name names. Pero, yeah, Senator, reaction. Should we be surprised?
Hint.
I heard of names. So, after, because we monitored it, this problem in our country, so we get a lot of information from the enforcers themselves. And I have a few names in mind, but I let POGCOR disclose that information. In fact, we're urging POGCOR to already disclose it rather than play the suspense game. It's better to already name that person that they are referring to right away. However, that proves one thing. That statement by POGCOR proves one thing: that these POGO companies and the people behind POGOs have managed to already link themselves with former cabinet secretaries, high-level people, enforcement agencies, and that's what we have been saying all along, that the sheer money of POGO that goes around, they can employ, they can get consultants in government, they can network with high government officials to help them in their paperwork as well as in their lobbying. And that's the danger that we have been flagging, that these POGO companies or these POGO entities are now slowly spreading across the different government agencies from top to bottom and also sideways. And that will be a big problem for us because it's very difficult for government now to uproot this type of an activity if they are already deeply entrenched with other personalities.
Senator, what's the status of your proposal to ban, to impose a total ban on POGOs? Kasi we talked to the PAG chief and he is defending yung POGOs. Sabi niya, lahat naman daw ng criminal activities, only illegal POGOs are involved. And in fact, as you know, nag-i-evolve nga ngayon yung POGO, nagiging internet, internet gaming licensing na siya, no? And sabi niya, dapat if you are going after criminal activities, you go daw after the illegal POGOs dahil hindi na naman daw nila ni-renew at hindi naman nag-apply yung mga illegal na POGO. What do you think of that? Talagang mukhang may resistance pa rin sa abolition eh.
I mean, there's no legal or illegal POGOs. By the very nature of POGOs, POGOs are illegal because they get majority of revenues, or they get almost 90% of their revenues from China, who has declared gambling as illegal. So in other words, your main source of revenue has already declared gambling as illegal. Therefore, the whole business model of POGOs is illegal. That's number one. And that's why if you think about it, none of our legitimate businessmen has gone into POGOs despite the huge lucrative returns that it generates. None of our big tycoons went to POGOs because it's illegal and it's not a business that our country wants to attract. Second, the licensees, which is what they call legal POGOs, became the gateway for these criminal syndicates to come. And we have data and paperwork and documents to prove that these legal POGOs went to bed with criminal syndicates and illegal personalities who have warrant of arrest. So, in other words, these legal POGOs became the door opener, became the gateway for all of these criminal syndicates to come in. And once they're in, they set up all of these different POGOs. In fact, the illegal POGOs that PAGCOR is calling were once upon a time legal POGOs. So for example, the one in Porac, the one in Bamban, they all have licenses in the past. So, and the one discovered in Parañaque was also licensed. So, in other words, they start off with as legal POGOs or licensees, and then eventually they become illegal because the illegal portion is much more lucrative.
Pero sir, medyo matagal-tagal na pong usapin itong POGO, whether to legalize it or not. But until now, we're still stuck with enforcement issues instead of the policy issue as to whether or not it should be banned or more strictly regulated. Eh. I mean, di ba, na huli, pero parang still in the air yung should we or should we not? How far or how close are we to getting to that point where we make a policy decision?
Tama ka dyan, Ed. No? That's the frustrating part about this POGO because no amount of revenue, whether through the BIR, through PAGCOR, or whatever revenue that we are getting for POGO, can justify crime. Crime cannot be justified at all. And the crime generated by POGOs are not ordinary crimes. We're talking about torture, human trafficking. We're talking about prostitution. And if you've listened to the hearing, the second hearing that we conducted here in the Senate, even the PAOK mentioned the description of Dr. Casio, the spokesperson of PAOK. These groups are horrific. They're beyond comprehension in terms of their propensity to create harm to our countrymen and to our country. They're criminal syndicates, hardened criminal syndicates, no match to the local criminal syndicates that we have. And this didn't come from me. This came from PAOK, who is the leader in the anti-organized crime campaign. So, as a country, we can survive without POGOs. In fact, we will be much safer, much peaceful if we don't have POGOs. And we're just agencies like PAGCOR is just looking at one thing, revenue. But if you look at the entire picture, it's creating a lot of reputational damage to our country, and that doesn't bode well with our initiative to bring in investments to the Philippines.
Okay, Senator, I understand that security...
At this point, do you have any sense kung ano ng takbo ng... Kung anong thinking ng administration? You think there will be a ban on POGOs A total ban?
That's what we're pushing. A lot of our senators are pushing, including myself, for a total ban. We're saying that the revenues is less than 1% of the total revenues of of our country, less than 0.5% of our entire economy. POGOs can disappear and we will not feel it. But if the crime disappears, we will feel it to our benefit. So far in the Senate, my personal sense is a lot of our senators are willing to ban POGOs already because of these past this criminal syndicates and the crimes that it's perpetuating here in the country these past few months.
Okay, Senator, the defense and security officials of this administration have already, gone to the Senate and told the Senate that they do consider POGOs as a threat to national security. That's very clear. I'm just wondering why they can tell this to the senators, and yet the administration has not taken a stand yet.
Your question is
this
as good as
administration-
mine. I cannot answer for the administration, but you're correct. I saw in the news report no less than the Defense Secretary, Secretary Quiboloy, said it's a national security concern. A word shy to saying a national security threat. There's also the revelation of abusing the late registration process is a big concern for us, because who can prevent Chinese spies to become Filipinos? Who can prevent Chinese government entities to become Filipinos easily by the late registration process? We all know that the late registration process in our country comes in very easily for those who want to be Filipinos instantly. You can be an instant Filipino just by the late registration process. And if you're a Filipino, you can buy land, you can set up businesses, you can get a passport and travel just like any other Filipino. So in that sense, it becomes a national security concern, in my opinion.
So, by way of legislation, what are you suggesting para hindi maulit tong nakikita natin in relation to Alice Go, for example? You have a apparently we have a Chinese citizen na ang dali-daling naging Filipino citizen at nakapag-open ng POGO, 2 POGOs in fact, nakapag-own ng napakalaking lupa sa Bamban. What might be remedies by way of legislation?
I mean, Alice Goes, for me, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure there are other Alice Goes out there. No? Hindi lang natin na-detect. Because Alice Go became, in my opinion, emboldened. No, she ran for public office. If you see her campaign, she ran on a platform of lies. She lied every second to justify her qualification to become a mayor. In the hearing, she lied throughout, and we have documents now proving that she lied. She's just one of the many people who became Filipino through the late registration process, and we should be alarmed because, like I said, who can prevent other nationalities to become Filipinos? Other nationalities who have ill intention to our country to become Filipinos? Who can prevent other spies of other countries to become Filipinos and wreak havoc in our country? We have now proven that the late registration process is completely flawed, and it created problems for our system.
So doon yung magiging reform na iniisip ninyo in the late registration process?
Yeah, among other things, to reform the late registration and birth certificate system natin. We also have, my proposal is to separate the regulatory functions and also the operation functions of PAGCOR. That's another proposal that we are proposing. And number two, to completely ban POGOs. We have a few bills here now in the Senate to completely ban POGOs, and we plan to hear that.
The PAGCOR statement, Senator, mentions a former cabinet official involved in this POGO in Pampanga. But I was just wondering whether, how far and wide does the influence of the POGO operations in Pampanga, how far and wide do they extend based on the information that you're receiving?
Very wide and very quite extensive, and it's getting more extensive. I think the ultimate proof there is that statement of PAGCOR that a former high-level cabinet official. This is not a low-level director or clerk. This is a cabinet-level person who is lobbying for POGOs, and that demonstrates that POGOs have already managed to penetrate the cabinet-level personalities.
Is there something? Yeah.
So it goes without saying that they can penetrate the low-level personalities as well. And we have seen some instances where information is leaked, information has been given to POGO personalities so that they can escape. We already have information about that. So in other words, they've already spread out. Their influence has already spread out because of the sheer money that they have. And that will continue if we don't stop POGOs in our country.
Is there something to read into the discovery of those appointment papers that's being traced to former Secretary Harry Roque? Is there something to read into that, or is that coincidence, pure coincidence? I mean, we're not familiar about the operations and the nature of the activities within the POGO complex in is this Porac, Pampanga? So I was just wondering if that raises some red flags as far as you're concerned, Senator Gatchalian.
I'll leave PAGCOR to answer that. I think PAGCOR is the one who made that press release, and obviously all of us are now hanging in suspense. So that's why a lot of us senators have been calling on PAGCOR to already release the names. Don't keep us hanging, because the investigation is already ongoing, and it's not going to help if you just leave it in suspension. So we'll leave PAGCOR to answer that question, because they're the ones who reveal that certain personalities are already embroiled in this POGO scheme.
Sir, do we have any indicators as to whether these illegal operations are, basically criminal syndicates per se lang, or whether they have
Geopolitical
implications?
National security.
In other words, whether these could have been initiated by foreign governments. I asked that kasi, for example, in the case of Alice Go, but this is hypothetical. In the case of Alice Go, you're looking at somebody who came in at a very young age, got registered, and eventually became a mayor. So medyo mahaba-haba yung gestation period from the time she came in, got registered, and became a mayor. So I don't know if criminal syndicates think that long term versus, for example, governments. But again, this is all hypothetical.
Well, Ed, let's put it this way, tayo as normal human beings, when we lie once, kinukonsensya na tayo. Sometimes we cannot sleep when we lie. But Alice Go is a different person. She lied every single second. She lied in the committee. She lied when she was campaigning. I listened to her campaign speech, and she mentioned that she's Filipino, her mother's Filipino. Her life is basically a web of lies, and she is living that. And again, we have more proof. We have more proof countering what she stated in the committee about her upbringing, about her schooling, etc., etc. We have proof to overturn what she said during the hearing. So, in other words, she is living in a web of lies, and that's not normal as a person. I don't know what kind of training or what kind of upbringing she had, but definitely she's not a normal person, spewing lies after lies after lies, and basically convincing the whole municipality of Banban to vote for her.
So, sir, what are you implying?
I don't know yet. I'm still trying to analyze the whole situation. It's just, sabi nga sa akin, a friend of mine told me, pwedeng pang Netflix yung buhay niya, no? Because of these things happening, pwedeng pang Netflix, no? But it's still an ongoing investigation. Although it's already completely settled that she's Chinese, she's Guo Waping, aka Alice Go. But some documents are still coming in the office disputing her testimonies during the hearing.
Sir, I'm also curious, are you looking at other people at present? Are you already looking at other people who may have done the same course, gone the same course?
Yes, we have. We're still. I cannot just say now, no? But we're looking at at members of her family. So we're still getting all the information coming in, but we're expanding their investigation to look at the members of her family.
How about other POGO operations outside of Pampanga, Senator? Are there places of interest?
Yeah. Apparently, according to PAOK, they are monitoring 50 other supposedly POGO hubs or POGO entities. In fact, after the high-profile coverage of POGOs, I'm getting a lot of anonymous texts and a lot of reports of sightings of POGOs in different parts of the country. So we're investigating that as well. But then again, we're also looking at the late registration process. The POGO side is one. The late registration process is also something that we have to take seriously. Again, foreign personalities foreign individuals can take advantage of the loophole in our late registration process, and they can move around, they can transact, they can do whatever they want as Filipinos in our country and also outside of the Philippines. So that's a gap that that's a loophole that we need to address.
Okay,
Senator, naging issue din yung mga SIM card. Napakarami, mukhang libo-libo yung nakukuhang SIM card sa mga POGOs. What can we do to strengthen our SIM registration law? Kasi mukhang napakaraming loopholes.
Ako personally, I'm very disappointed with NTC. This problem, we already flagged them with this problem, I think more than 6 months ago. We conducted the hearing here in the Senate. Yung mga unggoy, pwede magkumuha ng SIM card.
Yeah.
So that goes to show that the SIM card registration law is not working. But NTC did not do anything. They knew that there's also problems with the SIM card law implementation. They knew there are also loopholes, and they knew that the telcos are not accountable. They just sell to anyone who wants to buy SIM cards. So outside of the law, they need to put telcos they need to hold telcos to account, and they need to also tighten the rules and guidelines in getting SIM cards.
Okay, on that note, we have a phone-in question from one of our editors, Joey Francisco. Pinapatanong ni Joey, Senator, kung nagpaalam na ba daw sa inyo si Senator Sani Angara? I'm sure you know we're trying to fish
morning,
for...
magkasama kami sa Aurora. It was the Philippine-Spanish Friendship Day. So, magkasama kami sa Aurora. Kasama pa naman siya.
Yun. Hindi pa raw nagpapaalam, Joby.
He's the best. To me, he's the best.
Ang sabi ni Senator, kasama
best fit
siya.
for the
Hindi niya sinabi,
DepEd.
hindi nagpaalam.
Because he's, number one, he's a member of the Education Committee, so he knows the problem and solutions very well. And then he was the chairman of our Finance Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, so he knows budgeting very well. And then third, the educational background. There's no debate. Graduated from UP Law, from London School of Economics, then masters in Harvard. So in terms of educational background, there's no debate.
Okay.
He has very good, outstanding educational background. And plus, the solutions. Kilala ko si Sunny, he's an outside-of-the-box thinker. So we've talked about other outside-the-box solutions in the education system that I think will work and improve the system.
Okay.
So sir, inalok na nga sa kanya?
Ano lang tanongin niyo?
Talagang pinipilit or we're still trying to fish. Okay. Maraming salamat, Senator Win Gatchalian.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
That was Senator Win Gatchalian speaking to us about not just about the new DepEd secretary, pero about POGO.
POGOs. Sabi nga niya, from the very start, by its very concept, POGOs are illegal.
Kahit magpasok ng pera yan.
Yeah.
Kasi illegal yung pera.
Not because it's illegal here, but because it's
illegal in China. And the money is coming from China. Right.
Okay. Yun naman ang sinasabi naman ni President Duterte noon, di ba? Illegal sa kanila, sa atin, hindi.
That's also a point.
Tama naman siya.
Oo.
Well, Pero ano,
Are you a lawyer?
50 POGO operations outside of Pampanga.
No, China, for
being
for the
monitored.
longest time, China has been asking the Philippines to shut down the POGOs.
That's true.
Di ba?
It's been a sore
Nag-issue
point.
sila ng strongly worded statement na sabi nga nila, look at all the social ills that's being bred by the POGOs. Hindi daw nila maintindihan kung bakit ayaw nating isara. Oh. Kaya medyo malabo dyan yung sinasabi nila nag-i-spy yung POGO for China.
Well, that's
Kung
also what I was
mag-i-spy yan, di niya
but that's
gagamitin
si Mogs
POGO.
pala
They will
dito.
just spy all the way from Beijing.
Uy, pasok niyo naman si
Si Mogs
Manny
na
Mugato.
dito.
Nakalimutan natin. Okay.
Oo nga, kayo kasi.
Mogs, nasaan ka na, Mogs? Anong merienda natin?
Hindi merienda book, ano yung balita from the Storycon of One News.
Sorry.
We have our defense editor Manny Mugato, taong bahay kanina sa story conference ng mga producers. Manny, yan! Ba naka-Amerikano si
Yan
Manny?
na, ayan na si Manny.
Nasaan ka, Manny?
Nag-shoot pa.
Nakamute
Manny,
ka ata, Mogs.
nakamute ka.
Ayun, alam mo,
Yeah.
Pero
Ayan na.
this morning, President Marcos was in Pampanga at the 77th anniversary of the Philippine Air Force. No? At nangako uli siya na he will modernize the equipment and develop the bases. Kasi ngayon pa lang tayo naglalagay ng radars at ang ating fighters ay tatlo, apat, no? And if you want to cover yung ating air defense identification system, to intercept, no, yung mga intruders sa ating airspace, no? At alam mo, China has been sending a lot of warplanes sa Taiwan and dumadaan sa ating airspace yan sa may bandang Batanes, no? Parang kumikilid sa ating airspace and we cannot stop them, no? So yan ay mga concern, no, ng ating Philippine Air Force. At hindi ko alam, hindi pa pumipirma ang Pilipinas ng kung bibili tayo ng Gripen sa Sweden o F-16 sa Amerika, no? Although meron ng kontrata sa C-130 at meron na rin kontrata sa additional air defense radars, no? Pero malaki pa ano kailangan natin, no? Kulang na kulang ang ating gamit. So hopefully matuloy na to dahil si Bongbong Marcos has approved a 1.3 trillion peso modernization fund para sa
Air Force.
ating military for 10 years hanggang 2034. Yan. Kasama dyan yung mga fighters, helicopters, radars, missiles, warships, no? Pati na rin yung armored vehicles at drones. Kailangan natin yan.
Itong si Mogs, we can't stop them. We cannot identify them nga eh. Stop them ba?
Unidentified flying aircraft nga.
Oo nga,
Stop.
nung last year, di ba? Hindi natin ma-identify anong klaseng aeroplano yung dumaan dyan.
Okay, I guess that's
Okay.
that's all the time we have
UFO ba
for...
yun? UFO?
Pawalan natin si Manny Mogs para makapagmerienda na.
I guess that's all the time we have for now, Ami.
Yeah, sige.
Manny, maraming salamat,
Yeah.
Manny. That was One News Defense Editor Manny Mugato.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for joining the Storycon today. Ami Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the Storycon. I'm Edwin Gao.
I'm Patrick Pius. We are One News, all sides, all the time. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.